we at VI always felt that for this growth of this region, we required to revive our entrepreneurship skills. And that thought has been going in VI since long, and this has culminated into forming an entrepreneurship forum, and this is a start of the first program of that forum. As you know that entrepreneurship is very important in the growth of any country's economy. When you say that America or the developing countries are there, that means that the entrepreneurship is actually prospered. The entrepreneurs can really make maximum utilization of the resources available in that country. We never found that any relationship between educational qualification and entrepreneurship skills. But an entrepreneur is always required to have skills to understand the world. And this is provided with educational inputs. But in our real world, we have sessions like this where we interact with people who have done well for their own industries in their own spheres. So we have today's speaker, Mr. Nitin, who will speak about his own story about entrepreneurship in detail. But I formally request our President, Atul Pandeyji, to give his introductory remark on this.
Good evening, friends. At the outset, I would like to welcome our honored speaker this evening, Nitinji. I happen to know his organization. I also happen to know that today, this evening, the topic of entrepreneurship that he was going to speak to you on. He's a true role model, I would say, of that, having taken up an area in his endeavor, which is probably, I don't think any of the youngsters with kind of background would, it was a pleasant surprise when I got to know that now he is the CEO and owner of a company which is offering valuable services to industries all over the country. Friends, my young friends particularly, who are here with a lot of expectations, and I would look upon them as the growth engines of tomorrow's India, which is evident from so many successful stories that we hear about at national level, at international level. Indian youth faring so well at various fronts. Friends, although I am myself, I can't claim to be an entrepreneur with a startup, because I am a third generation entrepreneur, and I got things virtually on a platter. That's a different story. It has different challenges altogether. To be even second, third generation entrepreneur is also, it has its own challenge. But then to conceive a project, a startup, needs a totally different kind of an approach. Though we are looking forward to Nitinji's address to you on the subject, but just a few words on that, because the reason I got delayed for this event today was I was in an inaugural function of a very prestigious unit which is coming up here. All of you might have heard the name of Spacewood Furniture. They are an all India enterprise now, and I am a witness to both these entrepreneurs, Vivek and Kirit, when they were working for BRLGO, which was BLGO, which was a company जो VIP जो suitcases बनाती हैं, उन कंपनियों की ब्लोप्लास्ट की एक associate unit हुआ करती थी, and both these gentlemen were young engineers, fresh graduates from VNIT, and they were working as vendor development engineers in those companies. आई एम टॉकिंग, बहुत मैं पुरानी बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ आपसे. टुडे दे आर इन देयर मिड 40s. और जब मेरी उनसे मुलाकात हुई थी तब वो दे वेर एब्सोल्यूट फ्रेश ग्रेजुएट्स. दे यूज्ड टू कम टू आवर इंडस्ट्री फॉर product development for their new plant here. And today they are in his inaugural address, attended by the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. It was such a proud moment when he said that our industry today can claim to be the second largest furniture manufacturer in the country. Friends, imagine a short span of 20 years. कोई बहुत लंबा समय नहीं होता है. But there are success stories around us. In fact, both the gentlemen sitting before us, Suhasji, the chairman of our entrepreneurship forum, he is been awarded by CII as the outstanding, most innovative entrepreneur of the country. And mind you, he's again a first generation with a startup. He launched his unit. And today he is an entrepreneur of All India fame. The reason I'm citing these examples is entrepreneurship is something which is a little different ball game. It is a kind of a quality and attitude which probably is little rare. वो एक बहुत आम रूप में देखा नहीं जाता है. सबसे बड़ी क्वालिटी तो उसमें ये लगती है that you have to be really determined. You have to be seeing dreams. You have to be seeing dreams, but with some base eventually, and little risk-bearing capacity. Luck, of course, plays its role at the fag end, not to begin with, and you are there. Since we are fortunate to have Nitinji as our speaker this evening, more from Nitinji. All of you welcome here once again. This is a launching program of this particular activity at VIA. On behalf of VIA, I can assure you series of programs wherein you will get a lot of valuable inputs which would make you a successful entrepreneur, or which will motivate you, which will give you a kind of a roadmap. How do you proceed on this road? What are the stations on the way? What are the likely hurdles that you might face? How do you overcome that? But at the end of it, VIA is always there. This is a 5 decades old organization having its help desk here operating, backed up by successful entrepreneurs. So any of your problems, we are also there to back it up, to support you in your endeavor. All our good wishes to the young friends here, and let's look forward to a wonderful session from Mr. Nitin. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would like to introduce today's guest, Nitinji. He is chairman for CII's Vidarbha Zoo, and also MD of ex-serviceman multipurpose service private limited. His company was awarded, if I'm not wrong, he's been awarded Leaders of Tomorrow 2013 by India Mart. That's a national recognition they got, and I think he can explain you better on this, that how they have achieved this. But I really welcome him to really address the gathering and take this motivation session forward. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, President Shri Pandey, Secretary Rohit Agarwal, our dear friend Mr. Budhe, Professor Sinha, friends from the media, and our colleagues from CII Secretariat and the VIA Secretariat. Very good evening to all of you, and thank you for having made it today to listen to our talk and general discussion on entrepreneurship. We stand here today in the VIA hall, and I always love to say this, that although I am the chairman for CII Vidarbha Zonal Council, I have a bit of VIA in me, because I first became a VIA member. I first got inspired by virtues of VIA, and then CII came much later in my life.
VIA and CII are two wonderful organizations that have a broad industry base. Whereas VIA, as Pandey sir said, is a 5-decade-old organization and is a leading industry association in Vidarbha that is discussing and deliberating on issues of industries in Vidarbha and taking it to the government and creating an interface between academia and the government and industry. CII is doing a similar activity at a national level. It is a 7-decade-old organization headquartered in Delhi, having chapters in almost every state of India. In Maharashtra, we have around 5 zonal councils with the head office being in Bombay. The two industry associations have been very proactively working on helping create new horizons for growth for Indian entrepreneurship and industry. And that is what has brought us today to this platform, where we jointly decided that let us create a platform, a forum, a panel, whatever we may call it, where we can get youngsters, where we can get people from all walks of life, housewives, retired people, people in government, in corporate world who want to become entrepreneurs, who have got this idea in their mind which they feel can be implemented. We decided that we'll get all these people together and give them a mentorship, give them a certain dose of knowledge of what we have and helping them grow their enterprises. You know, we've always talked about these big startups in the US that developed, and to name a few, Apple, another one, Google, right? They're all on our fingertips. So they were also small bootstrapped ventures that started from a garage, from a room, but then they had a good dose of mentorship from good people, from people who were in industry, who had that background, that knowledge, and then we have seen them grow as large corporations of the world today. So we'll be deliberating that also today. Before starting, I would like to, as I have been instructed by Mr. Budhe, to talk something about myself, although it's quite embarrassing because people who are sitting here are much more experienced than me, and I have been taking tips from them. So I hope I am able to do justice to the honor you have given me today. Friends, I was in Delhi. I did my college there. I have always been called a rebel in my family because I never took the path walked by everyone else. I've got a family of engineers, and 40% of them are IITians. So if you say you're a non-engineer, it was a no-no, right? And when I decided to take up commerce in my 11th and 12th, my aunts went up to my mom and said that, look, save some money, help him open a chemist shop, an auto garage, because he karega kya uske baad. So, but I was hell-bent upon doing commerce. My parents supported me, and they said, well, if you can, score good percentage in 12th and aim to get into the best colleges or whichever college you want, it's all yours, because we don't have money to give you for donation to any college, and forget about sending you abroad and things like that. So I worked hard. I was never academically that brilliant, but again, God was kind, and I got into Delhi University, which apparently at that time was one of the most prestigious universities in India, especially for humanities and commerce, and I graduated from there. So while I was in college, within the first 8 months in college, in first year, the whole idea of a college went haywire, because half the times the studies weren't happening because the professors went on strike, and when the professors came back from strike, the students went on strike. So such was my introduction to college and Delhi University, for which I worked so hard. I took up a course. Those days Aptech was coming up with various courses. They had tie-ups with foreign universities, and I started, and everyone said that if you don't do a computer course, you will not do anything in life. So I picked up one course, and it was a 4-year course. Those days Aptech had a tie-up with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, US, and I did my software training there. I got my first job while I was in first year. Worked for a company called Satyam Infoway, which today we know Satyam, what has happened. But those days it was the company. They were into the business of selling internet accounts. Now if you recall the 90s, where internet was only on sale by BSNL. So you had to write a letter to BSNL, send a demand draft along with the letter, and then they'll send you a user ID password. You have to buy a modem and then install your internet connection. Satyam Info was the first company that brought internet on a CD to people. So I was lucky enough to be part of that lead sales team in Delhi, and we did a lot of selling of internet sales accounts there. All along, as we moved along, 98, 99, there was a mobile boom, there was a pager boom, and I loved having a mobile. My father refused to give me money. So I had a lot of money here which I was making. I bought my first mobile then. My second job was with Microsoft, where I was part of the Y2K team. And again, I was fortunate enough to have worked with one of the best people in the software industry then. I was part of a team that was helping the central government and various bodies of the central government address this problem of Y2K and emerge out of it. There were a lot of software solutions available, there were packs, there were on-site visits that we used to do to various government offices, and that in itself was a very exciting journey. I took a break, I finished college, took a break, and I went on my first entrepreneurial venture, which was a dot-com startup. If you remember, 99, 2000 was again a time when there were a lot of dot-coms in air. And I also started doing one. There were three of us who started, and three like me who were working with Satyam. We came together and we worked on this idea. Chrysalis Capital at that time was a venture capitalist. We just drove up to his house, checked up his address from somewhere, drove up to his house and said, we need money because we're doing a venture. He said, wonderful, what's the venture all about? So we told him about it. He said, bring a presentation. We made a presentation. And he told us, okay, $2 million assured to you. And we didn't know how much was $2 million. So then we worked out a calculator and said, hey, what paisa? He said, no, but this money will come provided you have these things to deliver. And we said, done, we'll do that. The very next month, one amongst the three of us got a call from FMS Delhi, which is one of the very prestigious MBA colleges. He had appeared for his CAT, and he got through there. So his dad said, boss, forget all this startup ka dhanda and all, better join this college. There's no business and all. So he happily, although he told us he was not happy, but he had to listen to his dad's orders, and he left us and went. At that time, the VC got a bit perturbed, and he said, look, this doesn't work this way. You guys are young. You guys have an idea. But I'm not going to fund you till such time I see a cohesion in your team. If every guy starts going out like this, it's not going to work out. And unfortunately, it just collapsed. And 2 months later, we shut down our enterprise, and I was job hunting. Again, luckily, I got a job, as they say, it was a recruitment error. And I got a job with a company called McKinsey & Company, which is one of the finest management consulting firms in the world, headquartered in US, having offices, 84 offices at that time all over the world. That time they had 2 offices in Delhi and Bombay, and I was part of the consulting team over there. My initial brief was working with the call center industry and the telecom industry. But within 3 years, I still, the entrepreneurial bug had bitten me, and I wanted to try out something of my own. And every Sunday I used to sit with a friend of mine, and we used to discuss on what we could do, something different. So he told me, hey, why don't you start a security company? I said, a security company? He said, yeah. And he gave me some numbers on the profitability and how things happen. So that got excited me, and I started looking up that time whatever limited internet was available, along with tried to look out for some research reports, analyst reports. There were none in this industry. But what I could see was that this was an industry that was in its nascent stage in India at that time. When I looked up security companies in Europe and US, they are companies that are really real-time security solutions companies. They take over the entire premise of a company, and they offer them technology solutions, could be CCTVs like these, could be access control devices that you see at the door, and ensure that nothing leaves the building. For them, it is loss prevention, right? In India, it was body shopping. It was chowkidari, if I may say so. A client would call up and say, "Mujhe 5 guard chahiye." "Ji sir, 5 guard mil jayenge." You take 5 guys, make them wear a dress which is called a uniform, and voila, you are in business. So I saw that opportunity because I realized that there were not many professionals in this space. Either it was a retired Fauji who had nothing else to do, a retired army man, an Air Force man, and he had contacts and he could talk about the wars he had fought. So client would say, "Haan, inko de do, ye aadmi handle kar sakte," right? Or it was, if I may say so, people who came as laborers from certain poor states of India, Orissa, Bihar, UP, who came into Delhi and Bombay, and they were smart enough. So they left their laborer's job and they got another 10 people from the village and they said, "Hum security company." And they said, "ठीक है, तुम संभालो गाँव वालों को लेके." So that was where security industry stood. And what I realized was, the irony was that these people were guarding assets worth millions and crores of rupees, right? So there was a big gap I realized. I realized that corporates were coming up, multinationals were coming into India. They had huge expectations from security solutions, which meant loss prevention and not security, right? Because security is again, I feel, a very abused word in India. So when 26/11 happened in Bombay, and when Kasab and his team came and wreaked havoc in Bombay, the next 10 days we kept reading about how security companies are going to benefit from it, and I couldn't make any sense of it. And I'll tell you why. Because security is a state subject in India. In India, private security company is not allowed to handle arms, weapons, right? If today I have a weapon and I shoot it, the first thing under Arms Act I'll be done is put behind bars. And then my interrogation will begin, why did I fire that one bullet? Was it in self-defense? I have to prove that it was in self-defense. If it is proven otherwise, I remain behind bars, right? So private security companies in India cannot handle weapons. You go to South Africa, you go to many countries in Europe, or you go to US, security companies are armed to the teeth. They have weapons, they have grenade launchers, they have helicopters, they are fighting wars. The American security companies are fighting wars for their country in Afghanistan and Iraq. And over here, we don't even have a permission to handle a double-barrel rifle. So in India, security is a state subject. If what happened in 26/11 happened, it was not the failure of a private security company. It was a failure of the entire security apparatus. And please don't ever feel that it was dynamic group of 6-7 motivated jihadis who just traveled by boat the same day and attacked Bombay and wreaked havoc. It doesn't happen this way. It doesn't happen. There is something called as seasickness. There is something called as fatigue, right? Commandos of the best armies of the world, including the Indian Army, are trained on this, right, to go and conduct such attacks. But then there is a resting time involved. Over here, if you read media, it was just as if they landed from the boat, they walked, hired a taxi, went and started spraying bullets. It doesn't happen this way. It doesn't happen. Right? And every time I met people, they say, "Oh, security company kya? Ab to bahut opportunity hai abhi." I say, "Kahan opportunity hai?" Because if they are carrying arms, I am not carrying arms, my guard will get killed. Right? So the failure was of the state, was of the security apparatus of not finding out these people prepared months in advance, 12 months, 15 months in advance. They had local support groups who gave them the infrastructure, who gave them weapons. Imagine firing from an AK-47 for 4 days continuously. It doesn't happen. You fire an AK-47 in open ground, your ear will go deaf. It is that loud a weapon. And they were firing this weapon inside such rooms for 4 days. And they were alive and active and they were, fighting, whereas our commandos were tired. It doesn't work. So there's more to it. And therefore, private security, it's beyond the realms of a private security company. There are government agencies capable enough of handling such things. There is an IB, there is RAW, there is enough apparatus available, right? What security companies in India, in the private space can do is loss prevention, right? There is something called as blue-collar crime, there is something called as white-collar crime. And we as a company focused on these two things. When we went to a client and they said, "Boss, we are concerned about our theft," we said, "Please identify what is your concern. Allow us to do a survey. And then we'll tell you what lacunas you have, whereby we can minimize the possibility of a theft. And whatever we save for you is money earned for you." Right? That is a technical way of looking at it, and that is how a security company must operate. Now, if the client tells us 10 guards, then we ask him, why 10 guards? If you can do it with 5, don't increase your burden. Because then tomorrow one day you will say, "No, I am not going to give you minimum wages. Mera cost badh gaya." Let us target that particular solution. In my company is exactly what we are doing, and I'll be talking about it as we move ahead. So this is how I started my journey. I quit my job in McKinsey. My parents, we don't belong to Nagpur. My association with Nagpur this year completes 10 years. But it was 2003 when I came down and told my parents, "Hey, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to start a security company." Now with the perception all of us have a security company, just imagine someone telling me, "Security company khol raha hu." And my dad is an IITian. So hell broke loose. Right? He said, "What are you talking? तो तुम्हारे medical benefits का क्या होगा? You get so much here, you get insurance cover. उसका क्या होगा?" I said, "उसका क्या होगा? It'll go with the job." So, an entrepreneur is programmed very differently. He doesn't care about the comforts. One of the reasons I quit McKinsey was because I was getting very comfortable with life. Business class travel, 5-star hotel stays, only interacting with CEOs and talking to chief ministers. Chandrababu Naidu was one of our clients, interacting with him as if, we are talking to friends. That was getting too much for me. I was too young and I said, no, I'm getting into a comfort zone. There are a lot of people in such companies who once they get used to this life are not able to come out of it. Right? And I wanted to do something very different. So from that life, I came into this life. I eventually happily started my security company in Delhi. My first client was a church. I deployed 2 guards over there, and that was my initial learning. Whatever material I could get upon, I took, learned, started my venture there. My second client, interestingly, was not a security company. I had decided to start a security company and make it big, but it happened to be a housekeeping job. Right? And it was with a very famous chain of clinics. They were setting up their first venture, their first clinic in Gurgaon. And I used to go, those days Gurgaon was coming up with so many malls and shops. So I used to go to every shop and mall and offer my service. So when I went there and he said, I need this entire 1500 square feet cleaned by 5 o'clock. If you do it, the contract is yours. So I had some, my peon in my previous company in McKinsey. I knew him, so I called him. I said, he said, yeah, my brother is a supervisor housekeeping in a 5-star hotel. मैं उसको call करता हूँ, लड़के ले आएगा. So he brought the boys. I took them in my car. We got the whole thing clean. We got the contract. So the second learning for me was that you may decide to walk on this path, but soon you realize that in a startup you have to change your path. Don't be rigid. And when I changed this path from a security to a housekeeping path, I realized that my housekeeping business was more than my security business in my first 2 years of business. I grew up to 200 people in Delhi. I had 5 offices at that time. I was young, I was a bachelor, I had no liabilities, God was kind to me, and that was one of the things that drove me towards an entrepreneurship venture, because I didn't have bills to pay every month at that time, and I was living at a family home, so my expenses were taken care of. I had given myself 2 years. I said, if it works, well and good. If it doesn't, I go back. McKinsey will take me back. In 6 months, I broke even. I was able to make money and cater to my expenses. And in end of 2005, I was invited to Nagpur to acquire a company here. It was an old gentleman, some of you would be knowing by the name of Mr. Dev Pujari, a very reverend and our dear friend, yes. So he was our Margdarshak of ESMS at that time. And and Mr. Girish Jodhar was a chartered accountant. I've got that's why I said I've got a lot of people here whose blessings are on me. So I hope I'm able to do justice today. He was getting old, a very dynamic person, a person who at the age of 60 retired from RBI and started a security company with the purpose of providing a second employment to the Jawans who retired from the army. And I'll tell you why this is significant eventually. So he and a friend of his, they saw this problem that there were these Jawans in the 1988-89 period where they were either illiterate or semi-literate, just 4th or 5th pass. And after they retired from the army at the age of 42, they had no other job and they were illiterate. So no one would take them. So these 2 gentlemen came together, Colonel Andhare and Mr. Dev Pujari, and they rehabilitated these Faujis. They were young, they were energetic, in a uniform, they looked the most disciplined people around. So they went to companies and started offering services to them. That's how this company, ESMS, grew from 1988-89. Colonel Andhare passed away in 2001, I think. I never seen him. Mr. Dev Pujari was quite aged, he was 84. Age was catching up with him and he wanted to exit his business at that time. That time there were around 1100 people in the company. The company's focus was on providing industrial security solutions, but they were in the guarding side. So they offered guards to various manufacturing units, not only in Vidhar but also across India. Finally, in April 2007, I acquired the company from him and merged my Delhi entity with Nagpur, and that brought me to Nagpur on a permanent basis. I was spending more time in Nagpur than in Delhi. Again, we started this whole process of entering into dialogue with clients at that time because there were competitors, in a manpower service, and if any one of you have dealt with manpower services, you'll realize there is no value addition in this enterprise, right? And any enterprise will only be successful when there's value addition. You take a technology product, an iPhone